So what I want to do now is to shift gears to bringing passion to your talent, to your skill, to whatever it is. And maybe the way to gauge that, the systems check, as you step back from it, does it wake you up in the morning?
Or keep you awake at night.
Or does it keep you awake at night?
I mean, is talent really that important? Because, I mean, I see a lot of examples of people who just really are just over the top with passion, and they're quite successful. So it's
and they have no talent?
Well, it's almost like talent's so subjective, you know.
It's almost like you start with natural talent, and then that can either wane if you don't work at it, or you can surpass the limitations of that.
Right.
Well,
I'm just
talent,
saying there's some people who are just passionate about something, and they might not necessarily have anything super over the top, but that passion just pushes them.
yeah, they may not be an expert in
Right.
terms of talent, but they have skill, they have competency.
Right. Yeah.
The competency is the value that is actually, they can actually do
Oh, I see what
something.
you're saying. Yeah.
They actually have skill, and their skill is getting better, and they have some awareness of that skill or talent.
Persistence.
And
My son's
Passion.
a wrestling coach. I always thought it was so funny. He would say, you know, he'd talk about my son, two of my sons, and say, you know, they really didn't have any natural ability, but they both won the state. So,
okay.
and he said the reason was because they wanted it.
Okay. So the difference between what is innate and what we call natural talent that just stands out versus the talent that we develop, the skills, the competency that we develop through persistence, year after year, the knowledge base, the understanding, and the ability to make something happen is what we're talking about, and that's the core, that competency. So what are you competent at?
I refrained my thought when he said they didn't have any natural talent. To give him feed forward now would be they had talent, persistence, to build anything they wanted to do or learn anything they wanted to do. That's talent. Please translate it.
Okay.
I didn't say it right.
Well, I guess I really do want to say that it needs to be based upon some aptitude. You know, Howard Gardner has created this model of intelligence, multiple intelligence. And it's not just IQ, it's not just mathematical intelligence or formal linguistic intelligence. It's interpersonal intelligence. It's intrapersonal intelligence. It's what he calls natural intelligence. It's visual, kinesthetic, spatial intelligence. It's musical intelligence. He's got 8 intelligences. And we know that the brain, for some people, there's a natural aptitude or intelligence for certain things. Now, those of us who don't have, if you don't have mathematical intelligence, you can, with persistence, develop enough to do certain levels of mathematics. But whether you ever get into calculus or trigonometry or some advanced mathematics and really understand it and enjoy it is a matter of aptitude as much as anything. So all of us can take basic aptitudes and develop them to certain levels. But where is your real aptitude? Because once you find that aptitude, that can also be, that potential is, unleashing that potential is what creates a real deep level excitement. And so finding that, now persistence, obviously, persistence is going to be a key to it, and passion for it, and belief in it, and giving yourself to it, and getting mentored and coached by people who already know that field is going to be key. But also finding that aptitude, because if you're trying to do something that you don't have an aptitude for, that tends to be what creates struggle and stress and strain.
When I started the video company, I went to someone else who was already doing it explicitly and walked through their whole plant and asked them all kinds of questions about it. Then all of a sudden I had a picture of how to grow it.
Okay.
And so that was really helpful.
Okay.
That visualization.
Okay. And if you were to chunk down to the talent, the competency, the skill that allows you to do that, what is the skill? Not the passion that drives it, but what is the actual skill? What would a person have to actually be able to do to make that happen? Would they have to organize? Would they have to be able to structure? Would they have to sell? What is the skill that actually makes that happen?
To make what happen?
What, the video business?
Oh, I just loved it. And
Okay, that's the passion. So what do you do?
well, find ways to help people. That was the number one thing. And
Okay.
then as I grew the business, then I could find more and more ways to help people. And then that
Okay.
expanded the business.
So do you talk to people?
Oh, yeah.
See, we're getting down to basic skills and maybe communication skills.
I made up a lot of stuff when I started because I didn't know about the business. And I would just tell people we could do all kinds of things that we couldn't do. So then we had to go find ways to do it.
Okay, okay. So the skill, the competency of seeing an opportunity and seizing it and taking that risk and inventing it as you go. So once we break tasks down into those skills, then we can identify what is... Because if you're going to hire someone to take your place, you wouldn't want an introvert who doesn't enjoy talking to people. You would need the emotional intelligence of interpersonal intelligence. So if you're going to hire anybody at a counter and to deal with the public, they need to be someone who can take second position. So these are the skills and competencies. Now, some of them can be developed, but what are the natural ones that just cause us to blossom once we find them and figure out how to develop them? So chunking it down to the specifics. Most business, especially if you're an entrepreneur, involves selling and marketing yourself. And so that interpersonal and those people skills is going to be critical, just absolutely critical.
Yeah, I really got excited about making up stuff. That was really fun.
Okay. Okay.
So that'd be similar, let's say, to a musician or a band or somebody. Maybe you have tons of talent versus someone who might not be that talented, but they're talented at being able to move within the music industry to get a contract and to get a record deal and all that sort of stuff. So I was kind of confused about talent in terms of subjective talent versus someone who's talented in playing the game of the record music industry.
So maybe to add another feature to this, most of the time we don't need just one talent, we need several talents. So to be a musician, obviously you have to have some musical aptitude and skill. It's not a field I'm going to go into. I can relate with people, I can sell myself, but if I don't have that talent, So you need that basic, but you need some more, because there could be that talented musician, but if he or she does not have interpersonal skills and can get along with people and negotiate and market self and do all that social stuff, they may not go very far. So what are the groups and the clusters of talents that's going to make, and aptitudes and skills and competencies that's going to make anything happen in a certain given area? And some of those can be outsourced. Sometimes you don't have to have all those skills. You can hire people to do that stuff. But what are the absolute critical ones? And then if you're going to hire someone or create a partner or business partner, do you have the skills to create that partnership? Now, if you ask me, how did I make the website, neurosemantics.com, I don't have a clue, because I didn't do it. But Bob loves that kind of stuff, so he was the one who first started creating the website. So I could go around and say, I've got a website. And I never touched it. And I don't have a clue to this day how it works. But because of relationships with Bob, with Carl Spies, with other people in neurosemantics, they're creating those things, those websites, they're monitoring those groups. And so working with and through people is going to be a key competency for most anybody in business.
There is a book, I think it's fairly recent, called Focus on Your Strengths, and it's published by the people associated with the Gallup organization, and it's based on a couple of million interviews, and inside the back cover of the book is a code number that you can go on the internet and take the test, which will tell you what your 5 top strengths are. And it can be illuminating.
Focus on your strengths.
Yes. And their first book, I think, was Break All the Rules, which was very popular as well.
Okay. So if you have an area that you know there's some competencies and there's some skills, that's where mastery skills is taking one of those competencies and really developing it and giving yourself the chance to be mentored or coached to develop that skill so that it's developed, and having a plan, an ongoing plan, which is continuous development of those core competencies. So what are your core competencies? What are your strengths? And now that once you identify it, then how can you get yourself into a state of passion and love and excitement about it? When I talk to a lot of people about doing real estate, a lot of people just really feel really put off, dealing with people and dealing with rentals and doing this and collecting months and going after people. Well, for me, that's just part of the fun. So they may have the skill to do that, but if they don't have the passion, the attitude. That's true with anything, and that's why sometimes we get into a job and we stay there so long, we get burned out, and it may be because we are not handling public, we're not handling with people, we're not handling our own energy. So what are some things that throw cold water and dampen? What is a passion killer for you?
It's so competitive if you go into real estate. You won't make any money. 10% of the people make 90% of the money. Or teaching. It's so hard to get into teaching.
Okay, so a passion killer is competition or awareness,
right,
or thinking that there's not enough or it's hard.
Right.
And so there's going to be certain attitudes and beliefs about that'll kill passion.
Or you'll have to study math. It's so hard.
Okay. Okay. So what else throws cold water on your passion?
That's the belief.
It's a belief.
I believe that it's easy to get into teaching.
Yeah. So the opposite belief. Or if you've got a whole bunch of naysayers saying that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's negative comments.
Negative people that you're around.
Putting fears in.
Yeah. So fear can kill a passion.
I think, was it Napoleon Hill that taught the secrecy principle? That you only tell, your desires and what you want to do to people who you know will support you.
Will be supportive.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Good patient killer.
That's the first
Government and local regulations and restrictions that if you're street legal and they need to clean something up, they'll come after you.
Okay. So how does that kill your passion? The awareness that government has constraints and rules.
It creates an overload. I like to go up to where I'm handling. I'm using my ability and handling everything I can handle. They come along and change the rules.
Okay. So what's your attitude about rules or them changing rules?
I hate it.
I hate it.
A lot.
Okay. So hatred of some of the constraints, or it's unfair.
Yeah, really unfair.
So what I would suggest is, what attitude would you need that, if you can't change that, what attitude would you have so that it's just an ongoing challenge? It actually excites you. How to play that game. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in an Irish way.
So as we identify the things that kill our passion, because that can lead to burnout and worn out, and then if the key to wealth building and financial independence is that long-term commitment to it, then everything we do that could kill it, as we take responsibility to adjust to that.
Okay, because the regulations, there are a few things that I've looked at them as I'll learn how to handle this, and this will weed the weaklings out of the business, and it leaves you less riffraff to deal with.
Okay.
It's really good competition.
Okay. Other things that might kill passion.
Satisfaction that takes you to comfort or complacency.
Okay. So yeah, satisfaction.
That's good enough.
Real toxic kind of a state.
Self-doubt. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, doubting self. That would kill passion.
Stop trying to be. I tell students, stop trying to be like normal people. Normal people never get wealthy. I'm successfully abnormal.
Okay. So what kills passion?
Trying to be like everybody else,
Okay.
which can inhibit you.
Mere conformity to everybody else?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Realizing that you need to get some help. I mean, if your passion has to do with creativity, but you need all the other business aspects, it's getting that help and feeling really overwhelmed.
Okay, so overwhelmed can be, and if a sense of dependency is negative to you, then that could be needing help from others. Okay. Rita?
I was going to say something similar to the conforming too much. To be able to think outside the box can help passion. So
If you
Okay.
don't know whether you're creative or you don't think you're creative, that could...
Okay. So you can see on this pattern that what we're going to do on page 80 is to identify the passion. We're also going to, step 2, identify passion killers. Because the most important thing for you to do is to know what could throw some cold water on it and turn it down and get you to burn out or overwhelm or stress or whatever. Because if we can handle that, and then number 3 is what resources do you need for passion? So step 2 is making sure that we can deal with it, whether it's a weakness, whether it's a threat, whatever it is in our world, so that we don't let it put us off, but that we deal with it and have those resources so that we move toward it, setting the frames for it, identifying the energies in our physiology. So step 5, what we're going to do with passion, is to ask what kind of a physical state will support you staying excited, passionate, alive, committed, in love with what you're doing. Because one of the things, this overwhelm, the stress, the negativity, is that sometimes we just don't take care of ourselves in terms of eating right, sleeping right, exercising, doing the things so that physiologically we have the energy to continue at it. Because the drivenness can just sometimes be the very thing that kills the passion. So making sure the drivenness is not too much, but in the meantime we're doing it in a balanced way. So let me work with someone. I'll just walk someone through this pattern for living with passion and adding passion, making sure the passion is the kind of energy for your competency. So who would like to do that? Okay, Richard? So this isn't on the worksheet, but the very first thing is to ask, what are your competencies? What are the competencies that you're wanting to keep really passionate about?
My competencies would be generally in 5 major areas: accounting and finance, management techniques, real estate and financial investment analysis.
Okay.
All the aspects involving business, because I'm at the college, including management information systems techniques.
Okay, so those are the competencies, the skills, the talents.
That I have.
And give me an idea of what you do with that to create a wealth-building, wealth creation plan.
Well, first of all, I built a great real estate program. We have some really solid core staff, and about 2 years ago, a CEO of a small real estate company said, "Our best real estate students come from you, your college. What does it take to get to professor?" So I wrote my own ticket, and I became vice president of the company, and we've grown 300% in 1 year.
Okay.
So, and I've been pretty much strategic and totally involved in everybody or in their face one way or another and troubleshooting real estate transactions.
Okay.
And I bring with me the enthusiasm that we can do it, and if you have an obstacle, I'm there to help you.
Okay, so that's the content of what we're talking about.
That's the content, yeah.
Okay. What's your passion about that content?
I love developing people. I love to be involved.
Okay.
I love to build people. To me, people are the assets of the company.
Okay, so that's your passion, building people.
Mm-hmm.
How's that passionate to you? What's exciting about that?
To see how people can develop and see how the company can grow and see how the people can generate the income. And then it comes back to me with higher income.
Okay.
And
Okay.
greater value of the stock in the company.
If you were to evaluate from 0 to 10, how passionate, how much does that make you feel alive?
Oh, about 10. I'm on
Okay.
a roll. That's no question about it. Yeah.
Do you keep that? Is there anything that ever dampens that?
Yeah, I'm very tuned into organizational politics and dynamics. When we started the college, I got on the faculty senate just to get tuned up with more interactive politics in diverse areas. And competition and jealousies and the pettiness of some people.
So that can, as it were, just dampen.
Yeah, that can dampen me, but I won't let it get into my way. And so I win 2 ways, by being competent, or I can become your worst enemy in an organizational dynamic.
So tell me, how does it dampen it? When it does do the dampening, how does that work in your mind, your emotions? How does it dampen, squelch?
Well, it reduces it, but then I recover and I go forward. I won't let it stop.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I see people are jealous or they try to put me down because they speak out or whatever, I'm much more tactful now in handling the situation because of my NLP skills. So I try to figure out where they're coming from and try to address it. And sometimes you just cut them off, Or when it comes to meeting dynamics, I will talk to the people, so when we go to the meeting, things will go my way. I can play that kind of politics.
Okay. So are there any other external things that would dampen?
No, not really. I'm very happy with it.
Are there anything internal that dampens? Do you ever get tired? Do you ever get
Well, I
overwhelmed?
get tired. I'm a little older now, and time is a threat to me in terms of how much do I want to be on this treadmill. And it can be a treadmill, but it's a good treadmill for me. It energizes me.
Okay. So is there anything that dampens the passion from inside?
Other than that, I want to balance my life more, and I'm looking for that. And one of the reasons I came out here was to retune up the piano and get a more advanced perspective on making adjustments to my priority. Again, I've got more passion. I come back to the company, want to do even more.
Okay. So, as you can tell, I'm looking for where we got a gap so we can do something, and I'm not hearing any gap yet. There's no, he handles the external one, he handles the and so we've done step 1, we've done step 2, step 3. He's already given me the resources, so I don't know why you're here.
I'm trying to find out if I got a gap, or if there needs to be an improvement, or there is a thought virus I need to work on, and I wouldn't know it until I get involved in it. So, again, that's one of my processes for success is get involved, do it.
Okay.
And if you fail, so what? Now you've got feedback, go forward.
Okay. So to come back to step number 2 on our process, and the question, is there anything that dampens it? Anything you want to work on?
I see what you're saying. Well, I was hoping to uncover something that I needed to work on. And I asked you that at the beginning of the seminar. I said at the end of the seminar, I would like your advice and counsel, and that goes to everybody here. If you think of anything I should work on, share with me.
Okay. So on a day-to-day basis, when you wake up in the morning, do you wake up with passion, with vitality?
Oh, yeah, I feel really good about life.
Okay. Okay.
I feel enriched, there's no question about
Okay. So in terms of taking the competencies, that content, and then bringing passion to it, it sounds like you've got that well installed already.
Yeah.
And when something comes from outside or inside, you've got the resources to deal with that.
Well, I'll feel the pain. I think the more you learn, the more sensitive you are. Maybe the more you'll feel the pain. But I will not let that get me to feel helpless, hopeless, and worthless. I won't go that way. And the matrix model is really making a difference to me.
Okay. Yeah. So we've walked through step 1, identify what you're passionate about. Step 2, anything that dampens it. Step 3 is resources. What resources do you need? And you've just been quoting all kinds of resources of how you deal with it, whether it's internal or external. Are you satisfied with those resources?
Yeah, and I'm still thirsting for more knowledge on this. It seems like the more I learn, the more I can do.
Okay.
I love that. I can help people more.
Step 4 is what frames of mind support you in keeping your passion going with this? What would you need to believe about yourself?
Well, the frame of mind that keeps my passion going is I learned years ago, don't try to be number 1.
Okay.
You give up. Just learn how to beat the average person. So if you're my students, study harder than the average person in this room, and do it with tenacity, with thoroughness.
Okay. So let me have
you'll be an A student.
Let me interrupt you and have you do it to yourself rather than them.
Yeah.
Okay. Instead of going to lecture mode.
Right. That was my teaching coming out.
Do it to yourself. So use I personal statements. The belief that supports me doing what I want to do is.
The belief that supports me in doing what I want to do is I always try to do better than the average person or any group I'm involved in. And I try to use my creativity skills, not to be competitive, although that's part of my nature, but just to get more confident.
Okay, so that belief really supports you in who you are. What value supports you? What would be a supporting value frame to keep your passion, vitality, energy alive?
My value is that I've achieved more than any of my relatives from Chicago have ever achieved, beyond my dreams. Awesome.
So how is that valuable?
Well, it's sort of like a family heritage. My folks wanted me to go to school, but we couldn't afford it. I went in the military, and I couldn't go to college till I got out under the GI Bill. So that was awesome for me to be able to. And I used to feel late in life. Everybody else went to college, and I didn't. And I've got 4 degrees compared to some of these guys.
Okay. So what does that mean to you?
It means that I've overachieved. I feel so confident about that.
Okay. And how does that support you in keeping your passion alive?
That I can learn, I can keep doing what I want to do, and I don't have to turn it off.
Okay. So what's your highest intention?
to have a profound effect on everybody that I meet in whatever way or capacity I interface with.
And when you had that profound impact on people, what does that do for you?
It gives me a real thrill. It's great feedback. Yeah.
So that's what it feels like.
Yes, sir.
But what does it mean? What does it do for you?
I'm very, I feel successful, I feel happy, I feel complete, and I feel that there's a greater mission up there in life beyond spirituality, that it isn't just doing something for somebody, but you make a better world.
Okay.
That's awesome.
So how in touch are you with that higher mission and those higher intentions on a day-to-day basis when you're working with the content of the finance of the real estate, teaching?
Well, I'm building an organization. We're building it up by changing the attitudes of people to always do more, always do better.
Okay, so how in touch are you with the highest mission that you have when you're doing that content?
I take it with me. I try in almost every
so it's really connected well.
Yes, sir.
I mean, it's your frame of mind. It's your attitude on a regular, everyday basis. Okay.
That's really good for me.
Okay. What's your sense of time? What belief or value, understanding about time would support you in the years that you think about living out this passion?
Well, that's really my lifelong goal, is to keep improving and using all these skills to make better decisions in life and go down that path. And it's creating options and choices for me that I never had dreamed of.
So with all of this, these beliefs, the support, and all the things that you've talked about, these reasons, what are your, if you were to list your top 3 states, that when you're in those states, when you wake up, access those states, and operate from those states, doing this really keeps your passion alive?
I think now, in terms of what we're learning here, I go into a genius state or in the zone. I just flow with it. And whether I meet with one individual or a dozen, sometimes a whole company, I try to share with them as much as I can to help their lives become better to whatever degree they're willing to work with.
Okay, so it's a genius state of really engaged with them, sharing. Okay. Other states?
Sometimes I have to solve very tough legalistic problems with agents and real estate transactions, where the agents hate the buyer or the seller they're dealing with, or the crazy listing agent or the selling agent on the other side. And it can get legally ugly. And so sometimes I have to take the other side to the point of pain, and I try to turn them around.
So what state are you in when you're doing that?
In that state, I'm in a very resourceful state.
Okay. And what would be the resourceful state? What would you call that state?
That this, well, let me give it, this has to work out good for all parties. It's got to be a win-win.
So you're in a win-win state of frame of mind.
Yeah, I can play win-lose, but I found it doesn't get you.
Okay. And so there's 2. Any more? Just really a powerful state.
What does it take to get this done state? Like we said in the company, most people fight internally, but if you focus on the client, all the other internal issues are garbage. We build toward getting that service or results to the client. And when people have all these little issues of my title, this title, my group, my department, if they can tell me how it's going to improve the bottom line for the customer, then we'll make changes.
So we've talked about your competencies and that content. We've talked about the passion that you bring to it, how you handle any kind of dampener from internal, external. We've talked about the resources here. As you've gone into the state,
yeah, I'm in it right now, just sitting there.
Because it'll probably refresh it. As you think about taking this out in the days and the weeks to go, are you pretty well aligned with that? Are you fully aligned with that?
Yeah, it really feels good. And in fact, just speaking out on this has really helped me. And I'll watch the video later to see what Richard is saying.
So are you fully aligned with that?
Yes, I am.
Okay. No objections?
No whatsoever.
Okay. So you're going to keep this?
It's mine.
It's yours.
You taught me that already. It's mine.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Give me a hand. Thank you. So what we want to do is we'll take our break now. We'll take our break for 15 minutes, and then we'll grab somebody, and just 10 minutes each, we will just walk through this pattern to bring passion to competencies. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Any questions on how to do it? The key is at the end, make sure that the neurology is radiating like Richard's was. All right, well, 15-minute break. When you hear how did that go in terms of Living with passion?
Great.
Okay. Okay. Huge. Okay. Insights, awarenesses, suggestions? Questions?
Well, when I was describing to Brian what I was passionate about, he, in turn, explained it to me in a way that I hadn't thought about. I hadn't connected the dots, and so he sort of
Okay.
it's amazing to see, how I'm passionate.
Okay. Okay. Did everybody feel like you dealt with some of those dampeners, those destroyers of passion, and bring some resources so that you can deal with it and not get burned out, not get overwhelmed, not get negative, not get procrastinating, whatever it is that puts you off from that passion? Okay.
Because we worked on my overall passion in my career, I said to my colleague who I worked with during this period, let's work on my personal life passions.
Okay.
And then you could break it down to any other passions, hobby passions, vacation passions.
Okay. And how did that go?
That was pretty good, too. It's come out good.
Get a big smile on his face.
Good. Good.
Or
Bruce?
identifying some of the passion killers that might be filing or mundane things that kill the creativity. Looking at that, saying, yes, I can do that, but maybe I should outsource it.
Okay. Okay.
Just getting the bigger vision where, like you said, it's bigger than you. Stop worrying about all your silliness.
Okay. Worrying about our silliness.
That's how I look at it.
I stubbornly refuse to worry about my silliness anymore. Yeah.
I talked about my passion being performing, and Richard helped me figure out that I haven't been incorporating my entire being into it. I've been mostly operating from my head, and so he worked with me on sort of bringing my heart and my head and my core all the way into my performance and just fully letting all my energy flow out, and it was a really powerful sense.
Good.
I'm going to start operating from that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's ironic that this is in Denver, but I was more passionate earlier in life, and so being here brings a bit of that back to me, and also we came up with how important the circumstances are, the environment has been.
Okay. And so the resource is what? Constructing your environment so it supports you?
Yeah, and also working on some of the, screening out some of the environment.
So the environment doesn't have an dominant influence to manage us. Okay. In my wealth building plan, a number of years ago, I decided that kind of the same thing, that there's an environment in which studying and researching and writing is just ideal for me. So I decided the next time I build a house, I'm going to have a big office built onto it. And so on the back of the house, the wall goes up maybe 20 feet, and then a room comes out. And the room comes out about 20 feet, and it's about 40 feet long. I made my office. And I made it all glass so that I can see the Mesa Mountain, the Uncompahgre Mountains, and the National Colorado Monument Mountains. And I can just sit there in that environment. Because the environment... So the whole back wall is books, but the environment and creating your environment and managing that environment so that it really serves you and enhances you and taking charge of that. I want to shift gears now to seeing and seizing opportunities. How many of you here, as you walk through life, you just see opportunities everywhere? How many are opportunity seers? You just see them everywhere. Okay, so raise your hands real high so I can see how many. So looks like most of the room, maybe 80%. How many walk through life and you don't see that many opportunities and you'd like to really see? So raise your hands. You're seeing more. And more. Too much is just not enough. So what you may want to do in this next exercise, there's two parts of it. One is seeing opportunities, really turning our eyes on, because opportunities are not seen with the eyes, they're seen with the mind. So the first thing is to see them. Now, those of you who raise your hand, and anybody see too many opportunities? You're overwhelmed? The second part of this is on seizing opportunities. Because in one way, turning the eye of your mind on, your mind's eye on to see opportunities can create torture because there's so much. And then you have to decide, what? Because you have so many choices. So seizing opportunities is a different kind of a state because now you're prioritizing and now you're bringing it in and you're saying no to some really good, maybe great things and saying yes to one thing and seizing it, actually taking it and not jumping anymore and stopping all the alternatives so that you can actually seize that opportunity. So as we start talking about an opportunity, linguistically, what is the word opportunity?
Choices.
Okay, linguistically, if you use the meta model, is it a noun, a verb? Anomalization. So once again, we can't put in the wheelbarrow. So what is the actual references, the processes that we call opportunity? What would you actually see? And how do you see chance? Possibly. Now we get more normalizations.
You can see yourself doing it or manifesting whatever that opportunity is.
Okay. So we're still trying to get specificity here.
Maybe it's an offer or a person that has certain resources or
okay.
that you see what you have to offer fitting into, and you see a possible collaboration or integration.
Okay. Collaboration, integration.
Ability to apply your skill to a certain situation.
To a certain situation. And what kind of situations?
Problem or need that you see.
Okay. Okay, so we're getting a little closer. A problem or a need.
I kind of see two situations. I see something, and then there's a gap, and then I see it being fulfilled.
Okay.
When I think of an opportunity.
Okay. So what we call a problem is the gap between where I am and where I want to be.
Yeah.
So there's that something needs to be done. There's something is stopping, limiting, hurting, creating distress. Something is not right. We call that a problem. And when we make it right, we solve the problem. So sometimes, and most of the time, opportunities show up as problems. Irritations, annoyances, frustrations, needs. And then the other thing that actually occurs is nothing. But he who has eyes to see, she who has eyes to see, can see opportunity in that I can feel it. Because how many people walked on the sand of the beaches and never saw the opportunity to create a source of information in that sand? So oftentimes we don't see any connection. So that's where opportunity really is a mental thing, and oftentimes it's in boredom or problem. The story I like to tell, and you may have heard this, it comes from about Fran Tarkenton, who was a famous football player here in this country. Minnesota. I heard an interview from Jay Abraham with Fran Tarkenton. And Fran had just sold his eighth business that he collected more than $1 million from each business. One business he collected $200 million from that business. And so if there was an entrepreneur who seemed to know how to make money, and lots of it, and to do it repeatedly, so Jay Abraham asked him, what was the first $1 million you ever made? And this was many years ago, and he was standing in line with his sheath around his ticket to fly. And I don't know if it was United or TWA or what it was in those years, but he was sitting there, and it was just a blank sheet of paper, a white sheet of paper, and the ticket was inside the sheath. And Fran started thinking, while he saw some other people writing, to-do lists on that white paper, he started thinking, I wonder if you could sell advertisement on this sheet of paper. So he went up to the counter and said, who's in charge of the sheath that you put your ticket in? And she said, I don't know. So he said, well, who else would I talk to? So he talked to her supervisor. She didn't know. So he talked to someone else. 12 people later, he found out somebody who knew who to talk to. So he went and talked to that person and said, this sheath, does that cost this airline a lot of money to create all these just blank sheets of paper to put the ticket in? And they said, yeah. And he said, could I just give you those? Would you like to just have those? How many would you need in a 6-month period? And it was something like 6 million. And he goes, I could give you that 6 million. I'd just give it to you. It'd be okay if I showed some advertisement, or just put a little advertisement on there, wouldn't it? Would you want it if I could just give you the sheaths? And of course they said, yeah, we'll take them. So his next question was, how can I have 6 million of these things printed every 6 months? So he called a printer up in Chicago, and he said, could you deliver 6 million of these every 6 months? And he said, well, I'd have to buy another press, have to hire a couple more people, but yes, if we had a contract, I could. He said, I'll split the profits 50-50. So he went out, sold advertisement for it, got it printed, and just started supplying it. And that was when he pocketed his first $1.1 million. So in terms of seeing opportunities, for a lot of people would see nothing. Other people, trying to go through that 1 person, 2 persons, up to 12 persons, would see problems. When they get the information, I'd have to how can I print this much? Or I'd have to hire another several more people and buy another printing press. That would have been a problem. So opportunities is when we're bored, or there's a distress or a problem, and we see solutions. So opportunity is really seeing solutions for problems. So that's why every problem is really opportunity to make lots and lots of money, if we can do something about that. So in terms of seeing and seizing opportunities, we don't see opportunities with our eyes. Opportunities don't occur in the sensory-based world. To see them, we have to use our mind and the eyes of our mind, and we have to train our eyes how to see them. And so there's a few little descriptions there on page 81 about seeing opportunities. And training our brain and building up a matrix of our brain, the meanings of our brain, so that we start looking for opportunities. And so the little pattern here, the first one is, think about a state that you're in a given context, and what do you see? Pick an area in which you would like to be able to see opportunities for you that will support your competencies, your skills, your passion. Pick an area. What do you currently see? When and where in the process of doing business, creating wealth, succeeding, do you most need to see this? What situation might tempt you to become blind to such, or where in life or business do you feel stuck? So we'll start with that particular area. And what do you see? A little while ago, the same question elicits this same area when we ask, what dampens you? What throws cold water on your passion? Because probably the very place where the cold water is thrown is the opportunity, if you can just see through it. And if it's an area that you have some competency about and you have passion, then that's the most ideal place to learn to see opportunities. And of course, when we do so, we're going to have to add some different kinds of things. A robust sense of your power. Because if immediately you feel powerless, helpless, hopeless, it's dismal, it's negative, you're not going to be able to see. So you have to have a sense of power, mental power, creative power, value power, emotional power, and also a vital sense of optimism, of possibilities, of thinking out of the box, of pretending, of doing what if I could solve this, and that kind of thing. Self-esteem and self-efficacy is just foundational. And then as we start layering frames to build up this, and you can see we've got a whole list there. Obviously, possibility thinking, potential thinking, problem solving. Do you have a frame of mind that you can solve, you can figure anything out? Or you can find somebody who can figure it out? Once again, outsourcing, finding people who are more intelligent than us in certain areas who can figure it out and connecting with them. So problem solving, adventure, fun, playfulness, excited about problems, a knowledge seeker, detective skills, curious, researching, creative, brainstorming, networking. These are the kind of frames that when you just add and add and add, and then apply it to that situation, suddenly the eyes start opening, and we can begin to see opportunities. I was driving with Dennis Bridew up in northern England a few years ago, and we stopped at a petrol station. And we were getting petrol. He pulled out the gas thing to put in the car, and on the gas thing it said, "Smoke Marlboro." And Dennis, his first statement was, "Who sold cigarettes at the gas pump?" And I said, "Yeah, who thought of that?" I mean, would you have thought there's a place for advertisement? No. So a lot of opportunity thinking, opportunistic thinking, is really thinking out of the box. Thinking wildly, crazily, chaotically, mixing things, and embracing that kind of chaotic.
I can also see where your value system could really wipe a lot of that out, because I don't like that kind of stuff, so I wouldn't want to, I just wouldn't go there. I don't want that. Either the product I'm not liking, or this is an invasion. So your values can really affect, whether or not you're going to go there.
Yeah. So this seeing opportunities is really getting into real creative frame of mind and thinking out of the box. So those of you who raise your hand, who you can see opportunities, what other things add and textures in your frame of mind that allows you to see opportunities everywhere? As you look through that list, what else?
I don't worry about how much money it takes to do it, but although that may limit me later, I just keep looking for different issues. Forget having the money to do it. Okay. So an excellent frame of mind is, don't put on how am I going to do it frame of mind. If you put on how am I going to do it, it'll blind you. Or how much is this going to cost? The how to do it strategy frame of mind is great later, but not at this stage. So there's a good one to add as something to add.
Sort of that childlike amazement and attention, and seeing everything new for the first time and not bringing your judgments and values to it. Okay. So any kind of non-judgmental awareness and that childlike wonder.
For me, it's more like I'll look at it and I'll think, well, that's a good idea, but I immediately think, well, others think this is a good idea. Like, how can I? Because I want to get others to pay more for it, so my investment's going to be worth more. So I immediately think, well, is this something that the market in general will get excited about and be willing to invest in and pay for?
So one of the other things you bring is there a market for this? And are other people seeing that too?
And how excited will they get about it?
How excited will they get? Okay.
There have been several times in my life when I've seen an opportunity for something and had an idea for an invention or something that would work there, and then thought, oh, I'm only 13 years old. I wouldn't know where to start. I wouldn't know who to make this. I would just see all the problems in my way and then forget about it. And then later on, see the invention being advertised, brand new product, and I'm like, I thought of that first, but.
Okay. So here's a good counter example. If you put on all the problems and looking for problems, and so if you mismatch, this may be a challenge to seeing opportunities, because with opportunity you start mismatching it and all the reasons it won't work. So that practical, how much will this cost? What will I have to do? How much time will it take? When you go into that frame of mind, it'll kill the seeing opportunities. Seizing opportunities is the next one, and you can see we've got another list of things here for texturing the frames to lay. Sense of timing and risk-taking and fittingness and values are first of them. Let's say I see an opportunity. One of the first things I have to do, is it for me? One of the first questions, one of the frame of mind, is it for me? Great opportunity, not for me, not now, not today, not in this situation. So some of the things after we see it, we have to start prioritizing and weighing it and identifying it. And so this is where seizing opportunities is almost the very opposite of seeing them. So in terms of the Disney strategy, the dreamer is seeing, and the realist is the one who's going to seize, is it realistic for me? Do I have the energy? Do I have the time? Do I have the money? So this is where we put on the how-to hat. So I think I mentioned the other day, I have a lot of associates, a lot of friends who's always telling me, you ought to do this. This is a great example, a great adventure, and you could do. And a lot of times it is. But I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. I don't have the money. I don't have the resources. I would have to stop doing what I am doing. And so it's not for me, not now. And so this is the criteria list of your values, your visions. Does it fit your vision? At what level of priority? Your decision-making frame of reference to weigh and to evaluate. You may want to put boldness. Once you've decided to seize it, then you may need the courage, the boldness, the risk-taking to just do it and take a risk. One of the things about every entrepreneur is entrepreneurs are risk-taking people. Their security's not out there, their security's inside, which is why so many of these self-made millionaires will go bankrupt several times because bankruptcy is just the money. And I've asked several of them, what do you think when you went bankrupt? And they said, well, nothing. And something happened. You know, there just wasn't much emotional, semantic responses to it. Just something that happened on the way. I compared that to my attitude. You know, the fear of losing everything. But once you have that sense of security inside, I now know enough about real estate that if I wanted to, I could just quit the training, go home. I could probably buy a house every month and begin doing that because I know enough creative financing people. I know how to leverage it all. I now know how to negotiate, make deals. If all I wanted to do was that, I could start with nothing and do that tomorrow. And so the sense of security there is a freedom that's a possibility. And it took about 7 years, I think, in the study. After I bought my first rental property, second rental property, I had never read a single book on real estate. And I realized, you know, if I'm going to work in this field, I ought to know something about it. And when I started reading, I discovered I was doing 7 things majorly wrong. So I started correcting them. And it just made all the difference. Knowledge can make a lot of difference if you know how a game is played in a certain kind of field. And so the security to take risks, the boldness, the just do it, the reality testing for seizing an opportunity. And part of my strategy now is for the most part, I'm doing one thing at a time as a project. Now, if something will fit into it, if it'll support it, I'll bring it on. But I pretty well know what I'm going to do for the next year, year and a half, as far as a project. And the decisions I'm making are usually a year and a half out or 2 years if I'm going to make some alteration because I'm willing to be committed to it and say no to a lot of good things. So one of the things you may have to bring is the permission, the willingness, the courage to say no, to cut off alternatives, to cut off options, and to give yourself to something. And then the fear may come up. Well, if I give myself to this for 2 years or 5 years or whatever, what if it doesn't work out? Well, this is where that courage comes in. In the meantime, you're going to be learning, you're going to be growing, you're going to be experiencing, you're making connections. And if it runs to a dead end, then you just more opportunities, and you give yourself to that. So seizing opportunities and seeing them. What frames do you need?
I see a frame of a decision tree. At every point in life, we're at some point in time from your perspective, and we have choices. Some of the choices we don't see because we haven't got the training. But every time we make a choice, we open up new pathways, and we eliminate some.
Okay, so the frame of mind
is maximize what I can see in terms of my options.
Okay, do what I can see at this point, and I don't need the whole path seen.
But I try to see as much as I can without being frozen in paralysis.
Okay.
It's called the cost of perfect information in quantitative techniques.
Okay.
So I look for these pathways. I try to maximize what I see. When I choose one, I want to focus on it.
Okay.
Or multiple paths.
Okay.
Which is what you're doing, real estate and training.
Okay. So does everybody know you can check off some of the frames of mind you need to add to either see them or seize them? 2 years ago, I was in Australia doing our master prac, and we were doing meta programs. And after 2 days of doing meta programs, because meta programs you can just throw out meta program, a lot of data download, and people were getting overloaded with all this data. And I started. Here was a problem. How can I teach meta programs more effectively? And one of my commitments is how can people have more fun learning all this cognitive information about these perceptual filters? So I started thinking about that. I started talking to people. And I got this idea if I could create a game. So I came home and I designed some stuff, threw it at a few people, redesigned a little bit. And I went out, spent $100, $200, made 6 games. Some of you were at San Diego last year. Jim, you were there. Denise, you were there at San Diego. Somebody else at San Diego last year. Stacy, you were there. Tom was there. And so I had these homemade games, and I bought the dice and I bought this stuff, and I had people play it. Well, one of the things, whenever you seize an opportunity, it may cost you a little bit, as you run a prototype. And that's what I was doing with that, running a prototype to see how it worked. So I got the whole group. We had about 60 people, and they were all playing a meta program game. And so I was peeking in and rewriting the rules and rewriting the structure. So I came away from that and said, I'm going to make a game. And I started searching, who creates games. And I was looking for who creates games, and I couldn't find it. I got my printer to start searching. He couldn't find it. And the cheapest board that we could find was going to cost $12. It was going to cost $20 to get the board printed. And we haven't got the box yet. We haven't got the information yet. We haven't got the little doodles yet. So as we started looking at that, he told me it was going to cost about $50 a game, our price, to produce this. So I went to the library and I started looking through manufacturers, found Pavco, and to buy the board was $6, $7. If I bought 500, so the initial investment was about $11,000 to create this meta detective game. So we got the printer, we did this, we put all this together, because at some level, anytime you seize an opportunity, there's some risk, there's some chance, and as well as trying to figure out how you manufacture it, how you distribute it, how you put it together, etc. And so when you bring a product, a service, a program, whatever you bring to market, the ability to be in a state of seeing an opportunity and then carrying it through. It took 2 years to carry that through to production. So, seeing and seizing opportunities. Let me work with somebody who'd like to see or seize an opportunity. We'll just do this meta-stating gestalt thing.